We have a quorum, so I think we can call the meeting to order. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Are we missing anybody?
Nope.
Irene, you are on the list.
For what?
The boo.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, John, do you have the agenda here somewhere?
Yes, I have the agenda. The first item is Sharp Grafton 2020.
Okay.
What we decided to do based on our last meeting was we were going to move it up from November, the day after Thanksgiving to November 1st. We're dealing with stores that may be overly crowded and figuring the stores could use the extra push. As many of you have probably noticed that sometimes Christmas season begins in September for some of the bigger retailers. So I figured it made sense.
I don't have a problem with that. That makes sense.
Yep.
Right.
Anybody?
Nope, I agree.
Yep. So we've ordered some additional signs because we've lost signs because of snow and people can't drive and things like that. So, and we've also ordered the brochures. So those are at the printer right now. We're thinking the marketing budget this year will be about $1,500. So I will need a vote to approve the marketing budget for that.
So that, just so we're clear on what's the budget is going to, some of that is prizes as well, John?
No, prizes are a separate line item for $1,200.
Okay. This is more for marketing materials for the Shop Grafton?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the 1,500.
No, Doreen, you had a question?
I just have a quick question first. I was thinking about this before the meeting tonight. Just due to the pandemic and that we still have, plenty of people, including myself, who are, skeptical to just walk into stores all the time. Would the committee consider doing something for online shopping as well? Or, something where an item, and maybe Morgan can speak more to this, of something that would work in her type of business structure where, if somebody were to pick up, like order, say like, she posts a lot on Instagram, for example, and someone says, I want that bureau and here's my credit card number over the phone. And someone, it's going to be out in the street for me to pick up in the truck, but they don't want to necessarily get like a card punch or something, that we could create a way for people to track how much they're shopping locally, but shopping virtually as well. Because I am so impressed with our local businesses who have made it easier on the customer over the past year. And I'd like to encourage that for our residents over the holidays. I'm not a technical person. I wish I could just build an app and say, here guys, I did this, we should use it. But maybe something, I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing
I like the idea and I like the concept. My challenge is I need somebody to tell me how to track it.
I have two thoughts. The first one is to come up with some sort of a sticker, so you give the local vendors stickers that they give somebody with the purchase. So, in a plastic bag tacked to whatever they purchased. Now, if we really want to get high tech with it, my thought was, because I can't do it either, Doreen. I'm the last person who's going to make an app, but maybe this would be a great project for one of the classes at the high school. I know they have computer classes at the high school.
I love it, Irene.
I like the concept. I just don't know timing wise if we're far enough.
Yeah,
out
we're talking what it's October 8th, and we're looking to kick off on November 1st. I agree with both Irene and Doreen with regards to the concept. I think maybe we can get stickers that put on receipts, and maybe the receipts become part of the way in which we track things, and they can turn in your copies of the receipts, or I don't know, something like that. Versus, and would have to be a manual process, unfortunately, because I honestly don't think We could probably get the high school, get permission, go through the process, who's going to do what, blah, 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 blah. By the time, this is going to kick off on November 1st, I think it would be very difficult.
Let me,
Sean?
let me throw out an absolutely crazy idea. What do we think of the honesty policy?
Yes and no.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
So-
know either.
My question is, do we already have our printed materials
No.
In the process.
in the process? All right. How hard would it be to either, like we're talking about the stickers, but ask the printer to essentially print something with maybe the Grafton seal on it, just nothing high tech or expensive, but like a mailing label that they could put something on, like Shop Grafton, anything that we would know was legit, so that when the vendor hands off the item, as you already said, he hands off the item, the sticker is right there with the receipt, we'll call it. And that sticker basically goes on the front or the back of the Shop Grafton card instead of a punch.
Yep.
It would obviously have to be small, like a dot or whatever, but
How do you
so
measure
is
that?
that feasible? Or again, maybe we just give all the vendors green dots and you don't tell the citizens, and that's your honesty right there.
I like the concept, but let's play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I can't have a different color sticker for all of the participating businesses.
No, I didn't. No, I
But
didn't mean
just
a different color. I'm just meaning, something that we know is a color that we issued.
Right, so hear me out. So if somebody goes to
Okay.
Dunkin' Donuts 10 times, which is highly likely, they may never look at any of the other stores. But
Yeah.
I was willing to go with the honesty policy, so what you're proposing is far more better than what I was proposing.
Well, I'm probably going to kind of tell everybody my ignorance with regards to those. What are those little square things that have all that? Looks like a little bit of a design, and people put their phones up against it, and they're able to read
Oh,
what
the
it's
Q
supposed to be.
codes.
I'm sorry?
Q codes.
QR code.
QR codes.
QR
yeah.
codes.
John's already
Yes.
been down that road.
We have?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Do we
not,
have one or not?
no, there was no way to implement it. That was my thing, to go touchless. And when I started talking to the professionals, they quickly shut the door on me.
Well, all the QR code does is direct you to a website.
Okay, then you just log
Oh.
in and you check off that you were at such and such a place, and you're good to go.
Well, I talked to a number of experts and they just said it wasn't possible. Because I told them my concept and they said no.
No. All right.
I say that we just stay the status quo for this year. We're all dealing with so many considerations with having to monitor crowd size and sanitize, and I think we should just proceed with how we've done it in the past and look to make some improvements next year.
Morgan, I agree. And, people have to shop somewhere for Christmas. They're not going to do it online. They're going to go to a store, and hopefully we can send them to stores in Grafton.
Yeah,
I don't
I don't necessarily agree with that statement, Dennis, on the idea that I think Amazon's going to have a corner market on the Christmas scenario. I mean, Amazon's just killing it with regards to this whole touchless scenario. And I think, to Doreen's part, I mean, a lot of people in Grafton have done a very creative way or have a number of creative ideas in which to, in a sense, survive and succeed through this process. And I think it's really hard to compete against an Amazon who's just going to drop off a box at your door and you're good to go. It's going to be hard.
I think
That's a
that
good point.
I have to say, people of Grafton have been very generous and have supported us. So I don't have any concern about you know, not making it through the holidays. I think that we're going to be supported. I think that all the local businesses are going to be supported. And we all offer curbside. Carol does at the country store. Emily will do that. If you call in, it's just, if you want a stamp on a, you know, on the shop Grafton, we can do that for them and just try to remember, hey, do you have your card or something? But I don't know.
Why don't we just stamp the receipts? So if somebody has, 5 receipts from, 5 different places, and they show the stamp on the back, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's a valuable consumer.
Well, that's a, sorry, Sean, go ahead.
When you collect the cards, and the cards go into essentially not a raffle, but something on that idea.
Right.
And how would you have all these receipts?
Well, I mean, you would count them, and so everybody, if somebody had 5 receipts, that would be, we'd have a minimum number of receipts turned in. So if somebody's shopped Grafton and they managed to shop at 3 different places and they got 3 different stamps, they would submit the 3 receipts and we put their name in. So that would be the benchmark or the qualification to get into the pool.
So, all right, let's back up a little bit. So John collects the cards from the various stores or vendors. Is that correct?
Right.
All right. John, how do you sort through and pick the winner?
Well, in the past, what I would do is I do initial sorts. We have drop-off points around town. I'd collect the cards, and then I'd do a sort to make sure they went to 10 different stores or restaurants.
Yes.
Then we put them in a basket or bucket. And then last year, what we did was we had them pulled out at the selectmen's meeting.
Right. Okay. So
instead of the card, Sean, maybe we just do receipts. And we have a
person
minimum
would have
of,
they would have to staple them together with the name and everything on it.
yeah, and just turn it in.
No, I'm going to strongly disagree. I think we have a good system. People, are they going to honk the horn and say, I want to drop off my receipt at your shop? A clump of receipts. I just don't see the logistic. I think that's adding more work that's kind of not necessary. If somebody wants to put in their card and stamp it, I'll come out and stamp it. But collecting receipts, I don't think that's too logistically.
I understand what you're saying, but it's also proof positive that they actually shopped in town.
Yeah, but it's way too cumbersome.
It's way too cumbersome. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, Morgan, in your experience recently, so I am assuming from what you just said that you are seeing a fair amount of foot traffic. And is it safe to assume that the other people that are participating in this have seen or will see a similar number of customers?
I think so. I think people just feel very comfortable, and maybe because our doors and windows are open. I'm kind of concerned when we have to shut down things that we may see some drop off or people standing outside. I'm not sure, but it's been very good right now, so I'm not too concerned. But I wonder about, some of the smaller shops where their capacity limitations may be challenging for them. But you're going to definitely want to talk to those merchants to gauge how they're feeling. But I think that we're going to see a lot more Grafton folks come through our doors.
Yeah, in Grafton, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Well,
All right, so go ahead, John.
As you talk through the whole thing, right? November, weather's cold, you're closing these stores, they're talking about the air circulation. Chances are there's very minimal. So I understand Doreen's point that even if somebody's comfortable today with the doors open and stuff, going to the stores, how comfortable are they going to be when you're trying to close and keep the heat in and the air, there's no real air circulation. So
Well,
I think that's a challenge that all of America needs to take on, John. I don't think it's just a
Right.
Grafton scenario.
So,
So
so
are we-
what,
are we more worried about sales dropping or trying to get a stamp on a card for a consumer to turn in? I mean, it's kind of like,
I'm more worried about sales.
right. So
Right.
I guess if there's, and I think, John, you were going to make sure that the businesses have updated their website information on the planning board Shop Grafton site. Is that correct? So that you can say, hey, you can buy online gift cards at these businesses and direct folks to that web link. I think that's what we had talked about. So that people can shop online in Grafton businesses to at least get gift cards and things.
well, we got to be careful because there's like a fine line as to when we're becoming advocates as opposed to helping businesses. We can't say shop here or do this, but we can say, here's a list of businesses in Grafton.
You can
Right.
see
And we can,
before.
yeah, we can easily do that. That's fun. That's more
Right.
than fair. Right.
So I think if we just make sure, and if you want to send out another link, or start advertising that link that will bring folks to the directory, then we could start checking to see if our information is actually updated.
Okay.
All right.
So I just
So
wanna-
Doreen, I guess to clarify the point, I think it's probably the window's too small in order to get something done between now and November 1st.
Mhm.
So I think we're going to try to go with the way in which we've gone in the past, and just kind of try to get through it in this new normal.
Yeah, that's fine. And I think Morgan brought up a lot of great points too
I
about
agree.
how, I sympathize with the business owners, right? They're going through all these protocols that they need to go through all these restrictions, and to add on work for business owners is the last thing we want to do, especially as this committee. And I guess where I'm coming from is trying to, I've noticed in town, I've had a lot of, especially back in March and April, I had people ordering things online and people dropping them on my front porch instead of me going there, and just, supporting every local business that I could. I remember, Morgan, I bought a table outside from you. I think it was May. We have a beautiful table in the backyard. Before she even opened up. And so I think there is opportunity for people to shop virtually or support our businesses in town if they don't feel comfortable with going into these shops. And so I want to make sure that sales are as good as they can be. If we think of something in the next few weeks to encourage that, we can try it. But it sounds like we don't want to reinvent the wheel at this time. I will say, with the news this past week of, the president catching COVID, and then we had our first case in the Grafton school system yesterday. And we are having a conversation on Tuesday at our board meeting about postponing town meeting. So concerns are starting to be raised. And so I'm coming from the point of, I want to be able to support businesses as much as possible. And if things take a shift in the wrong direction, what do we do? And so that was why I had brought it up. I certainly don't want to add more work for business owners. And perhaps this is something that won't be an issue next year.
I think we all hope that.
And we
way.
all just ride this out the best we can.
I
I
think-
also heard feedback last year from a few business owners that were incredibly busy off the common that said, I didn't have time to stamp things. Why can't people just have an app and just hold it up to something in the store? I don't have a time to do this. And so there was this level of frustration too. But again, I mean, it's what we can do right now. And, I think that we should continue to think about improving it in the future, not just for our residents, but also for our business owners to make it as streamlined as possible. And then if we had all the data, then John wouldn't need to do anything with it. We could just collect it. And then we could say, this many millions of dollars was spent in, within local Grafton this year. We would have all the data. So I don't know how we get there since none of us build apps, but, I just want to keep that conversation going.
Just so you know, earlier in the process, the concept was to get the QR codes and put in the back of all the stores. So that way they had to walk all the way through to get their thing. I investigated that. And in fact, Morgan and I had a number of conversations trying to work that through. But when I talked to the people who actually control those QR codes, there was nothing off the shelf that could be purchased to do what we're trying to do. Because I was just looking for it to say, here's evidence that people have been here. And then some of the options that were available, they were talking $10,000 plus.
I think we're at a point now where we probably, I think all the input that we've had so far has been absolutely dead on and accurate. Doreen, I think you're spot on. I just wish we had a budget of $20,000 so that we could pull it off. I guess if we can just get a motion to move with this $1,500 budget, and we'll go from there.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
Was that you, Dennis?
Yes, that was me.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous, John. Where we go next?
Okay, next are the prizes. In the past, we spent $1,200. This year, I expect us to be lower than $1,200. The prizes that I have in mind right now are 2 Apple Watches and a Roku. I'm not a technology guy, but a Roku thing is you plug in a TV and let you get all sorts of channels and TV shows. Apple Watches are highly desired. My view of the prizes are that they're nice to give away, but I think a lot of the people in Grafton, the shops at the local stores, are doing it because they really want to support their community and they aren't necessarily doing it for a prize. And I've talked to a number of people who said, oh yeah, I qualified. The prize didn't mean anything to them. So I think they're nice prizes to both people who want them, but it's within a reasonable budget where we're dialing it back a bit, given what the town's experiencing.
So a max of $1,200, John?
It's a max of 1,200. I expect to be at under 1,000.
Okay, can I get a motion? Doreen, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I have a lot to say tonight, I guess. What do we think about perhaps buying our prizes from local stores? Putting together baskets for people and supporting local businesses with that $1,200 instead of Apple.
The problem is trying to make sure you do a little bit of something from everybody so that no one's left out. It looks too much like favoritism otherwise. Because I think we had come up with that idea when we did this the first time 2 years ago. And again, the thought was you don't want to look like you're favoring one business over another.
Yeah, we're trying to avoid conflict of interest.
On
But
that note,
last year we gave gift cards. Like I donated one from our shop, and I think there were a few others that donated additional prizes.
would it be
Sean?
possible? Would it be possible to have something similar to what David Meridian did? He said, if you buy a $20 gift card, it'll be matched by somebody or some entity, whatever. If there was a way for us to maybe include in one of the prizes, not maybe the whole prize isn't, how do I want to say this? All right, let's say we had $100 gift card and $50 of it is is something that we say, all right, you can spend this $50 at any of the participating vendors, and then we're not favoring one or the other. We're favoring the businesses that are signed on to do the shop Grafton. Is that a conflict of interest, or is that a way that we can, I don't know, help everybody, so to speak?
Stay local. Yeah.
Yes.
Conceptually, I think it makes sense in the sense we'd have to put out to the business owners, hey, if somebody buys it, the town of Grafton is matching it or something. I could figure out the logistics of that.
But it would be kind of like a gift certificate from the Phantom Gourmet. You know, it's only good at certain restaurants. So you get a
Right.
gift certificate that is only redeemable at, and you list all of the participating shops. And then let's say that I couldn't win because I'm on the EDC, but let's say that I was the winner. I take my gift certificate and maybe I go down to the saddle shop, or maybe I go to the Pet Oasis and I spend the money there, or I spend the gift certificate. That vendor now comes back to you and says, hey, I accepted this gift certificate, you know, give me my $50, $100, whatever it is.
Right. The way that would be easiest to do it would be like a Visa gift card, but once you do it that way, they can go anywhere.
Okay.
Which is why I like the idea of a paper gift certificate better.
Well, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. The gift card doesn't restrict them to the vendors that signed up.
Right.
And then the winner gets to choose, and we would just have to have it redeemable within 60 days or something. So no one's holding on to it for a year and it gets,
Well,
you know.
I figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
I figured it out. They win. Tell us which store or whatever you'd like the gift certificate from. We go get it, we purchase it, then we hand it to them. That's the solution.
That's a good thought.
So you win, you say, hey, I want a gift certificate to Saddle Shed. We'd buy the gift certificate, then we'd deliver it afterwards to Saddle Shed or whoever it chooses to be. That way we're controlling it's in the town.
Yeah.
And we don't have the issue of them trying to figure out where they're going. They just tell us.
Dennis?
I'm just trying to think of the work for you, John. I mean, that's a double hit. You got to get a hold of the people that won, then you got to find out where they want to shop. Then you got to run down to that particular store and meet with the people again. It just seems to me to be a lot of work. If we can come up with a generic certificate that says good at, and we list all the businesses on the back, and they can go to any one of them, and then the business turns in the certificate to you, then it's less work for you.
Yeah, I think that works.
I think my way kind of works in the sense that case somebody goes to a store and you have a clerk there who doesn't know about the program, it ensures there's going to be less problems. And a lot of that would be done by phone.
We don't need,
I don't mind you doing any extra work, John. It's just I tried to get you out of it.
Hey, I appreciate that. Job security.
right.
John likes to visit his patrons.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
Sean,
don't
you want to say something?
We don't necessarily have to, we don't have to print the vendors on the back of the gift card. We just simply staple one of our flyers that has all the participating names on it already.
Yeah.
So you staple the flyer to the gift card or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you would when you kind of like think about how much these Apple Watches cost. I mean, you could say, you get $500 for first place, or the first drawing, $250 and then $100. It would be hard pressed to spend $500 in one location. Go ahead, Sean.
On that, you took the words out of my mouth. On that note there, would we be able to try to honor or help more of our participating vendors But then if you do it that way, then you, instead of a $300 watch, you're actually giving out 3 $100 gift certificates. But, you know, are we watering down the prizes, and would that water down the incentive?
No,
I
I
don't know.
think
I don't know if it, no, go ahead, Morgan. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I think it's better to have local prizes than
I
a
totally
watch.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially this year. I mean, I really feel like people want to help the local businesses.
Yeah, I
And-
totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Especially
I don't think it's watering it down. I mean, $100 gift certificates, and you know, so how many people actually qualified
Get a
last year,
snag?
John?
We probably got about 40 cards.
So I mean, you know, we pick out, you know, 1,000, 10 cards at $100.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 10 winners. That's $1,000 going back into the businesses here in Grafton. I think that's a home run.
Me
Yeah,
too.
me too.
Instead of to Apple. Not that I have
Yeah.
anything against Apple, but
No,
you know,
no.
we're kind of practicing what we preach, right?
Yeah, exactly. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So why don't we do
I
that?
agree.
Why don't we go with $100 gift certificates at any local, you know, participating business within the town of Grafton. We fully guarantee that the store or the shop or the vendor or the restaurant or whatever gets that $100 from the EDC based on the certificate. We sign it and we endorse it or whatever. And we just make sure that they get their, you know, the prize winner gets the $100 worth of goods and services, and the shop owner or the business gets the $100 in revenue. Make sense?
I
I
second.
like it.
Sense.
Or second
sense
that.
to me.
So we're good for 1,000. John?
1,000 sounds good to me. I need you to take a vote though.
All right. So we're gonna get a vote for $1,000 worth of 10 $100 gift certificates. How's that sound? Can you get a motion?
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving right along, John.
Okay. 8 Pine Street, they're currently doing the due diligence. It's actually coming pretty much as expected. Obviously, there's some soil contaminants, but nothing outside of what they were expecting. So that's moving along. Currently, we have the RFP for 17 and 27 Upton Street out. So far, we've had 8 different businesses tour it. We're thinking about pushing back the deadline for when they need to submit the RFP because we're finding things are moving a lot slower with COVID, and we've had.
Why would you say that?
Yeah,
Oh my God. Talk about snail pace that things. They're just crazy.
right. So people have asked for additional times to submit well thought out RFPs. So we're looking to move that back.
When's the date now, John? That the RFPs are due? Do you remember?
One moment, pause.
No, definitely not boss.
No, I'm saying pause.
Oh,
That's
November 1st or something.
November 1st.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. I think we'd want to move it back until at least like February. I don't know about.
Well,
I mean, you get into November. You know, you get into anywhere past November 15th. The remaining 45 days are basically shot, and then you get into January 1st, and everybody's worried about whatever. So you're looking at anything constructive by February 1st. Or is that make sense to everybody or no, John?
I'm open to that. I'm not the one who's making that decision.
I understand that,
Um,
but we should recommend that they push it back to a February 1st date. Is that something you could talk about, Doreen?
Yeah, Carl, I'm not sure with this. I would recommend that this committee, through John, check with Chris McCormick on that, of just like how plan timelines like this typically work, because after we get the RFP and award the bid, once it came to the board, it would depend on, you know, again, like if there's any issues with the property, which I'm sure that property does have some contaminants, you know, the building implementation of the entire project before another winter season. And I just don't have the expertise on that, but I think our planner would. So I would just check with him and say that, you know, we've had this discussion and we're thinking more in February. What would that do to the timeline? And would he be agreeable to that?
Couple of things, a little bit of background. Initially, when we had the RFP for 8 Pine Street, it was due in the middle of the initial outbreak of COVID. And we simply talked to Tim and Tim agreed to extend the deadline. So I don't think that process is all that difficult. I think we simply had to put the word out that the deadline was expanded. We were initially talking about December 15th, but if you want February 1st, that's perfectly fine. As far as I know, there's no real deadline as to when things need to be done by.
I just think from my standpoint, which is, and I think Irene could speak to this too, which is more of budgetary, is, you know, we need the new growth sooner rather than later. So the sooner projects get done in town, which already go at a snail's pace, the sooner we have the revenue. And so a couple months shouldn't make a big difference. But again, if we had to wait to build through another whole winter season or something, I just don't feel like I have the expertise to make that decision. And I would recommend just confirming that with planning before we moved ahead, because I think of it also in terms of revenue.
I mean, talk to the town planner. That's Chris, I guess, right? That's
Yes.
And then maybe Carter would have some input as well.
Carter has final say.
Okay. So why don't we do that?
Okay.
At least recommend that they push it off till at least sometime in February. Is everybody in agreement with that? Yeah. Anybody with any concerns or comments?
Well-
Sean?
Not so much a concern, just I'll say a comment. Looking at the crystal ball here, if someone did make a proposal that might require something to go to town meeting, let's say a TIF agreement or something to that effect. As Doreen mentioned, things do tend to go slow. So if from the town's point of view, they wanted at least a proposal, a proposal ahead of time, ahead of the town meeting or the process, in the event that, again, they wanted something like a TIF agreement that the town would have to go through a longer process to get approved. That's all.
Well, my experience with the TIF committee, having been a member, it's rather, the committee gets together and it makes a recommendation and the Board of Selectmen either agree or disagree. I don't know if it's a town meeting requirement or not. It didn't seem to be
Okay.
the last time we did one.
All
We
right.
actually, we had proposed one for and agreed to by the UPS folks. And that was a while back, but it went, fairly quickly and it went through the Board of, I say selectmen, what's the select people or select board? I apologize. I'm dating myself here. So the select board, and I think overall, I mean, it was, they either agreed with it or not. It was that straightforward. I don't think it's,
Okay.
it's just,
All right.
TIFs are pretty straightforward. If you get somebody that quick, TIFs are a little further down in the negotiation process, and
Okay.
it just makes a little bit more sense that way.
Then go for it.
I think
Okay.
that brings up an excellent point with the timeline. I didn't even think about Maytown meeting. If it had, for some reason, had to go to a town vote. So I just don't know exactly how those timelines work. So like I said, I would just, recommend we check and we could just get the thumbs up right away. Like, yeah, no problem. But if in case there's a reasoning of why it should be January 15th or January 1st, I just think checking with Carter and Chris would be a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and last on the agenda is I'm going to ask Carl to give people an update on the PPP loans. And also I want to publicly thank Carl. Jennifer was able to provide us
Marble, Jennifer Marble, yeah.
was able to provide us some real information to help understand the forgiveness of the PPP loan. And she also agreed to have a Q&A session where people could come on board and ask her about the SBA and the PPP loans and things like that.
Yeah, having at our institution, we managed to get out 65 PPP loans to various businesses within town and the community. I think overall, if you talk to each of those individual business owners, that it was truly a lifeline, and carried them through this initial 3 or 4 months of this COVID disaster. I think the forgiveness program, of that 65 loans that we actually managed to put together, 60 of them are under $150,000. So when the legislation, or there was it's basically being fought out between the president and the House and the Senate with regards to the next level of funding for the phase, I think it's 4 or 5 of the COVID relief program, or CARES Act, I guess it's called. 60 of those would automatically be forgiven. So we're highly recommending that they hold off for as long as they can with regards to submitting their information. We actually got interesting news today that we actually got our first forgiveness application or proposal or submission to the SBA approved, and it was 100% forgiven. So I think that's the ultimate goal for these small businesses. And I think, as a whole, Jennifer's going to be a heck of a resource for the community with regards to that. And we'll have a Zoom call and we'll walk people through it if necessary. And even those who didn't actually get the PPP through us, we'd be more than happy to help them if they got it through a Citizens or a Santander or a Unibank or whatever. Because there's these submissions, unless they are forgiven by this legislation, are going to take forever. And this is going to be a hell of a process. And the SBA already has over 10,000 submissions. They did over, I can't tell you what the number was on how many they actually did. So this is going to be a long, drawn out process unless we get that forgiveness happen. And I think, we need to talk to our legislators, and we need to get them off the stick. We need to get them moving as a business entity, as an economic development entity. We need to make sure that we're barking at the right people at the right time in order to get this forgiveness program into effect. And politics aside, this is what's good for business.
Just to back up and help some people who don't have the context, the way the legislation was written is the money went out, but it wasn't very clear. So what
right,
needed to be done
right,
for the loan to be converted to a grant. And what happens is if you approach the bank basically doesn't have the authority to approve it. So they hand it off to the SBA, and the SBA is saying Congress didn't provide us enough guidance to determine what's been approved. And they're extremely time consuming to process. So that's why it's a huge issue for business owners.
I would say this, John. I would say that the process is very cumbersome and convoluted. They have an approval process. But I would also say that, the one that we did submit, we submitted it, I'd probably say about 60 days ago. And it went through and it got approved. So it is happening, but you know, it would be such a relief in a burden and you know, an offload of a burden to the SBA exactly to get this off the books so that most of this is forgiven anyways. I mean, most of these loan applications or most of these loan approvals were under $150,000, so it just makes sense. I mean, you know, we went the smallest one we did was for $1,400. I mean, you're gonna send all this paperwork in for $1,400? I mean, seriously, who's kidding who?
Hey, Carl,
Yes, Morgan.
question. So I applied and received a loan from, it was under FEMA for economic disaster relief, an idle
Yes.
loan.
Yep.
Do you know if that would qualify for?
It's not anything with regards to the PPP. It's a totally separate entity, or no, it's under the SBA, but it's a totally separate program.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we got it and I'm fine with it and it's very low interest, but if there's, you know, if that was something that qualified, then certainly I would look into it.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't part of the legislation. I think the PPP was the 800-pound gorilla in the room with regards to that. I think the EDIL, I think it is, program was a little bit more selective, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Well, I can't believe I did it all by myself and got it, so.
Well, you know, that is kudos to you, Morgan. You know, that is actually quite a feat because we actually had a number of people submit and were turned down. So,
Wow.
Good job.
I just made up some numbers, you know, and
Nah, you don't want to say that out in public.
Especially while it's being recorded.
and then you worry about, did I just give my personal information out to a scammer? Because you can't check on it and you're like, oh my God, what did I just do?
Well, that was the other thing that we've seen a rash of people that applied for different government programs that all of a sudden now are being asked to. We had to verify 3 different employees of the institution were quote unquote looking for unemployment, and they were still employed by the credit union. So there's a lot of fraud going on right now with regards to all this. So please pass the word out to everybody. If you think something's wrong, it probably is.
Cosmo.
Yeah.
There's Doreen's dog, Cosmo.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
It's been
I don't
running around.
want to bring mine out because he'll start barking, and that would be a bad
It's
news.
the only way to make him settle. He wants my lap. So
There you go. I fortunately or unfortunately don't have a laptop.
All right.
Big Ted.
That's the end of the agenda, unless you guys have
Anything's open for business or anything like that?
Hey, John, do you think there is an opportunity? I'm really concerned about the 4 or 5 big restaurants in town. Is there an opportunity for Bob to go out and do another video to say support our indoor dining, you know, or get you know, gift cards are available and they could just show them holding up their gift cards and things. I don't know, just people really like that video that went around in Grafton.
Yep. That'd probably be a good idea, John, if you can get Bob to do that.
Yeah. Just for I think for the eating establishments.
Dennis?
I know there's a lot of concern about Halloween trick-or-treating and whether it's going to be done in Grafton or not. The Lions are going to give people an alternative. On October 30th, we're having a trunk and treat. So people can drive down a driveway and there'll be cars parked along the parking lot with characters standing there handing out candy to the kids as they drive by. So that's an alternative the Lions are giving. It's free. Obviously, donations are welcome. And we're also welcoming donations of candy. If you'd like to donate candy to the Lions, wrapped candy, so that we can hand it out. So it's another alternative to Halloween. I don't know whether a lot of kids are going to be trick-or-treating. Although with Worcester canceling it, we may get a lot of Worcester kids. That's the problem, you know, so.
Yeah.
Dennis, where can we donate the candy? Do you want us to bring it to the Lions Club?
We're actually going to have a candy donation bucket at the Lions Club building Saturday morning.
Great.
You can just drop off your bags there if you'd like to. Just drive down and drop them off.
Will
That'd be great.
do.
Nice.
Thank you.
And we'll announce this at the select board meeting on Tuesday too. That's
Oh,
wonderful.
great. Yeah, the alternative. It'd be wonderful. We're getting a lot of hits on Facebook, so I think there's gonna be a lot of people there.
That's great. Thank you.
And Dennis and Sean, I owe you a brochure. We had the new brochures for the Main Street come out recently. And everybody else got one except for the two of you. So
Oh, I feel
the
slighted.
reason for that is I don't have your home address. So if you could email me your addresses, I'll drop in the mail for you. Everybody else, I either put in the finance or select person's box or drop them off at their business.
Well, I'm at the police station every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, so you can drop it off at the front window and,
Yeah, if he
So
was
they'll put it
around
in
on
the box.
Saturdays or Sunday, Dennis, come on.
oh, you can drop it off during the week and they'll put it in my box.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Any other open business or anything else that anybody wants to talk about? Actually, I want to bring up a topic, and this is just purely on the idea that caught my eye. There's a number of different business people that seem to be, very entrepreneurial. To Doreen's part, there's a number of people that have been doing a great job here in Grafton, and maybe we can somehow maybe have subcommittees, or I don't know if that's allowed or whatever, but we probably should get some advice from these folks. It's impressive on some of these home businesses and how they've been marketing themselves. And maybe we can encompass them or ask them to come and maybe to a meeting and talk about how they've been, successful or whatever their ideas that we might do to support businesses or them within their process. I run a large institution compared to what's in Grafton. A number of us are, we have a select person, we have a finance person, we have a number of different people. And Morgan, you're probably the only entrepreneur here. I just think it would probably be beneficial to have some other voices here. That makes sense?
Sure.
Yeah,
Totally
makes
agree.
sense to me.
Super.
Just send me the names and some telephone numbers and emails, and I'll reach out to them.
Awesome. Anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Yep. Awesome. And you all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Real good meeting, folks.
Thank you,
Okay.
everybody.
Thanks for your
Take
time.
care,
Very good.
everybody.
Two thumbs